So I think I started off yesterday by saying that I've already made a bit of a start to this job, and that some of it is already underway. Bit of history. My father, well, my parents bought this house back in 1962, I believe it was, and they moved down here from somewhere pretty much in the middle of Croydon, so it was a bit different. They wanted to get out of the centre of Croydon. It was getting a bit too busy for them, and they looked around and they found a place down here and they bought this. And at the time the garden was still pretty large. The garden stopped, where are we? The garden stopped about here, I think. It was somewhere around about here. Yeah, so that bit down there was kind of part of next door's garden at that point. But we still had access to it. I was born in '66, so they'd been here a few years before they had me. And so I grew up here. And it was a cool place to grow up, I have to say. Lots of garden, lots of space to play around outside, and yeah, lots to get up to. I'll take you down into the woods in a minute, and you can see the sort of place that was. Anyway, cut a long story short, at some point, I can't remember when exactly, 70s I think, the next door neighbours at the time gave my parents this strip of land that carries on from the end of the original garden right up to the top, and so the garden extended quite a lot then. So let me take you on a little bit of a tour. I sort of started the tour yesterday, so you can have a look and you can see there's all the sheds and the bits that I was talking about before. Are all up at the top half, and then we sort of get down to the next bit, and then there's this sort of slope down here. Let me flip the camera around and you can see what I mean. Yeah, so there's this sort of slope that goes down here. At the moment this is a bit challenging to walk on because I don't know where he got the idea from, but my father had this idea that it was a really brilliant idea to leave all the leaves in autumn onto the grass because it sort of protected the grass in some ways. Actually, no, it just kept all the water trapped in there, so it's a bit of a swamp down here, and it's been raining quite a lot for the last few days. So it's yeah, you have to watch out. If I suddenly disappear and the camera starts pointing straight upwards, you know what's happened. Okay, where am I? Oh, this is a squishy bit. Right, and you can see there's lots of moss. Yeah, it's all very mossy down there. So at some point I want to clear out all the moss and get some grass growing again. Anyway, this fence, none of this fence existed. I put this up last year because of the deer. At some point I'll get some film of the deer, because the deer still hang around over there behind this fence at the side, and they hang around up here behind this part of the in this part of the woods. Yeah, they eat everything. They absolutely eat everything. They munch trees, and even bits that they don't actually want to eat, they'll quite happily destroy, just to see if it's any good. So in here, this is a bit of a bluebell wood, so there's a definite ancient woodland kind of feel about this in places. And look at this, there we go. In a few weeks' time, this is going to be an absolute riot of blue. I'm not sure why, but this always seems to run a few weeks behind the rest of the area. In fact, even the rest of next door. I mean, look, you can see next door you've got all the blue is out over there. I don't know if it's really showing on the camera at the moment, but there's a lot of blue going on over there. Here it's not quite there yet, but it's getting there. Anyway, so you carry on up here. I used to play in that area over there when I was a kid, all the way around to here, and this fence didn't really exist. It was sort of there and not there, so, you know, It was always a bit free range when when the mates came round. And this bit up here, never really used to get to. I have to say, when I was a kid, this was very different. This didn't look like this. This was much more overgrown. There were brambles everywhere. There were a lot more fallen trees. My parents' house has a log burner in it, so a lot of cases the fallen trees were turned into firewood, which was quite useful, I have to say. Looking back down towards the house there, believe it or not, you can't see it. And you pan around here, and then we come to the top end of the garden. And here, now here you see evidence of the deer coming in. You see this trodden path here, and this hole in the fence. I mean, seriously, I've repaired this barbed wire a few times now, and they keep chewing their way through the metal wire that I tie it back up again. I don't know what these deer are made of, but they're pretty tough. And there's the view over the top. Not my horse. Don't know whose horse that is. So yeah, this that's the extent of the garden. I'm still using the wood up here to run the log burner, which is nice. And I really want to do something good with this garden. When it was at its heyday, so to speak, Dad had all sorts of stuff growing all over the place. There was this sort of weird gap between when I was a kid, when it was all overgrown and chaotic and covered in brambles, and then I think the deer arrived and ate all the brambles, and then they with the newly sort of cleared space meant that things could start to grow. So Dad planted lots of stuff up here, and it was an absolute riot of colour. And then the deer came back and ate it all. So it needs a little bit of recovery. I might put fences in to stop the deer getting into the woods too much. I think that would be a good plan. You don't need massive fences. They're sort of that 1.4 metres seems to work, seems to do the job. It's not that they can't get over it, it's just that they, don't. So I can, it's not too bad. I can fit that up here. That should be all right. It's just long. That's the problem. Something ridiculous, like 1/2 kilometre of fencing around this garden. So I'll, like I said, everything's on a sort of industrial, commercial scale at the moment. So it just takes a while. And there, as you come out of the woods, is the house up in the distance. You can see these little green things down on the ground down here. These are my attempts to distract the squirrels from eating my willow plants. Little ultrasonic squirrel repellers that actually seem to be doing something. It's definitely slowing them down, even if it's not actually getting rid of them. Right, here we go, swamp time again. So yeah, I've been planting all sorts of things up the side here. So I've got some box trees, which apparently squirrels don't like, so I'm hoping that will distract them a bit. There's some wild garlic I've got and planted that, which squirrels don't like garlic either. And there's some box, and there's some little mini trees, willows, hazels, all sorts of things down here. And I'm hoping that eventually it will become quite a nice little sort of almost ancient style hedge with a complete mix of stuff in it. to make it look really good. So that'll be nice. Been regrassing bits. I don't know if you can see down there. Yeah, just down there in front of the shed. I've been regrassing bits as well as planting things. Oh, this was funny. This bit here, I decided the other day to start cutting deep into this hedge. So I'm having to be really careful with the hedges because obviously it's spring and birds start nesting and you can't start disturbing birds. But there was nothing nesting in there, you could see and hear that. So I started cutting deep into this hedge. This hedge did come out to about here. It really stuck out miles. And I thought, let's see how far I can, where are the roots? And the roots are actually on the boundary. Look at that. They're right up by the boundary. So having cut that out now and made a little space in there, I'm going to try and put a little sort of gazebo and a chair or something in there at some point. Get the hedge at the back to grow up again. That'll be a nice little place to sit where the neighbours don't overlook. And actually at the right time of day, it's a lovely little sunspot. So that'll be a great place to sit and where you're not overlooked, which matters sometimes. Yeah. Anyway, so that's the tour. I'll start talking about what I'm actually going to be doing to the place over the next few films. But it's as I say, big job, lots to it, lots of space. I think it's 13 and a bit meters wide and 200 and something long. It's colossal. It's ridiculous. And that's the other thing, is that the soil type is different all the way down here. So there's bits of it which are almost solid clay, bits of it which are lovely ericaceous, acidic, great for plants. Some bits are basically rock. Up in the woods, it's lovely soil, but it's quite dry because the trees have sucked all the moisture out of it. So digging holes is an absolute nightmare. And as I say, it's different, and it can be different sort of here, and then like 3 meters further down, it can be different again. So you have to pick your spots carefully if you're going to dig a hole or plant a plant. But anyway, right. So that's the garden.